Okay, the first fly, or the fly we're going to tie right now, I shouldn't say first, is a Skinny Nelson. It's on a Tiemco hook. It's standard unithread black. Any kind of thread in an 8/0 will be fine. What we're going to do is we're going to start off by getting it kind of jammed. Then what we're going to do is take some silver wire, some extra small silver. We're going to lay it sideways like that and pull it back. Again, we're in the thorax, so we have a lot of latitude, so that wire's hanging out. Then it calls for a pheasant tail. I don't use pheasant tail. I use fluorofiber, and here's some fluorofiber. I'll tell you why in just a second. If you've ever fished a pheasant tail on a big fish day where you're catching fish after fish, it blows them up or breaks them off. And both things I find undesirable, and so I'm going to do 2 wraps over this and pull it back, and it's mostly okay. So what we've got is we've got the wire and we've got the fluorofiber, and then we get it all together. And one of the tie-in tips that I try to share with everybody is if you hold this up, and for my angle it's straight up, it allows you to lay the thread side by side by side by side. And I don't have my light up very high right now because it blows out the camera, so I can't really see very well. And so that lays down a pretty good layer of thread, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over it and kind of finish it. But it gives you a real good first covering. And this isn't a fly that you need to taper the body on. So now you've got all this, you got the wire and you've got the tail kind of everywhere. One thing you can do right away if you want to is you can just trim the tail a little bit less than the body length. And then what I like to do a whole bunch is to put them in a hackle pliers like this. And it allows you not to have to chase it around on the table and find all your materials. So now we got that out of the way, and what we're going to do now is we're going to employ another hackle pliers. I'm going to go ahead and take this wrap up to the front. I'm going to go ahead and pinch that, and I'm going to show you how it will run a wire pretty perfectly up. I can't hand wrap this well, but I can with this. And so I'm going to do an extra wrap, even coming under the thread, not worrying about the bulk that the thread has created. And see how it sort of jumped up there and jammed up there? It's a good thing. So I'm going to put 3 wraps, and now I've got a real solid footing for that wire not to come loose. I'm sure you've fished a fly and the wire comes loose and you're having a good day and it kind of bugs you. So we're going to take some medium mylar, here it is right here, and beat up a little bit, but doesn't matter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it kind of on the top side of the hook. I'm going to pull it back a little bit. And I'm going to line up kind of where I want that thorax to be, which is probably about right there. Okay? And then what I'm going to do, it's a Skinny Nelson, and so I'm going to take a synthetic eye stub peacock, and I like synthetic a lot because it allows you to have, again, I love peacock. I love peacock for the first 2 bugs, but after that I don't care much for it. So get a little bit moist, and I'm going to tear these fibers so I can actually dub it thin. And you can see how thin it'll be here in just a second. I've opted for a close camera angle, and it's kind of robbed the opportunity to really get good view of what I'm doing on this. So I'm a little fatter in the front of the dubbing noodle, and then I kind of skinny down so I've got a little bit of leeway, and so you can see that noodle where it sort of goes from fat to thin. And so now I'm going to start it, and I'm going to just lay it in here like this, and I say, hey, that's a little too fat. That's what I say to myself, hey, you're a little too fat. So I'm going to take it up to the front, and then if I'm happy with it, I can just, this synthetic's so easy to get off. I just get out of the way, right? So I'm pretty happy with that size. Super leggy looking, which is something else I really like about synthetic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten up my bobbin a little bit. My hook's leaning down pretty hard. We'll compensate for that. I got one wrap over it to make sure it's where I want it. Give it a pull. Then two, kind of lock it down. One in front. I've got that dubbing kind of crawling around on me now. I got it out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this, and this isn't super precise, but it's good enough. And so now we've got that head of that fly cut. You can see a couple wraps around it. So I'm going to put one around. I always throw kind of one extra around just to be sure. I dropped a couple off them where it was gabbing away. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a series of knots. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to be happy with that. And then I'm going to turn the fly and I'm going to do another side. 1, 2, 3. And by tying a series of knots, what it allows me to do is not have to fool around with head cement. And when I'm tying small flies, believe me, I go ahead and do that. But if you look at this, it's a manageable size knot. I'm going to take it, I'm going to V my scissors right against the fly body and take it off pretty close. And so now what we've ended up with is, you can see the back side of the thorax with that mylar. You can see the ribbing, and you can see kind of that leggy profile. And those are three really good things, I think, for that bug. I think it really serves you in a way that if you want to trim it all up, you can, but I think actually it's that commotion that really works for you.